Hello, Pokemon trainers. Welcome back to some Pokemon Sword and Shield news here on iStarly TV. I know month after month when they would make announcements for Pokemon Sword and Shield, when they would kind of have events and things, I would continuously say, this is probably the last time I'm going to do some Pokemon Sword and Shield news. But we are now officially in the month of November. Pokemon Scarlet and Violet are under 3 weeks away from releasing, and I can confidently say now this is very likely the last Pokemon Sword and Shield video I will ever make. I actually am considering making like a little bit of a kind of retrospective, maybe review of Sword and Shield or Gen 8 in general. So stay tuned for that, but this is definitely the last bit of Pokemon Sword and Shield news that we will ever receive, and that is that the Wild area is getting its final Max Raid event for Pokemon Sword and Shield. And this is starting on November 1st, and this is running, I guess, until the online service is discontinued. So basically, if you want to do this Max Raid event, as with any Max Raid event in Sword and Shield, you would go to Mystery Gift and update the Wild Area news, and it would update it with the current Max Raid event. And so if you do that, basically this Max Raid event will last for pretty much for the rest of Pokemon Sword and Shield's like official lifespan, which means until they kind of stop the online service, which could be in several years, basically. But the point is, this is the final Sword and Shield update ever. And it's basically a Max Raid event with Gigantamax Pokemon. And it looks to be, I looked through the list of Pokemon because Cerebi kind of compiled a list of all of the Pokemon that are available in this event, and it looks like basically all of the Max Raid Pokemon that were new to Sword and Shield, like when Sword and Shield first came out. So you have a chance of kind of catching, Gigantamax Machamp, Gigantamax Duraludon, Gigantamax Copperajah, etc. There's a lot of different Gigantamax Pokemon that you can encounter in this event. As you can see, well, I made some video footage here of me doing this Max Raid event, and I just encountered 2 Gigantamax Garbodors. I didn't encounter anything other than those. Well, I encountered a Klefki, but that's not part of the event. So yeah, I mean, with that being said, this is the final update for Sword and Shield, and I'm gonna be honest, I'm a little bit disappointed. We had plenty of Max Raid events in the early stages of Sword and Shield that represented these Pokemon. I was always holding out hope that we would get a Max Raid event where you would be able to capture the Galarian starters. And a big reason for that was because it would let us catch the Galarian starters in specific Pokeballs, rather than right now the only Pokeball you can get the Galarian starters in is a regular Pokeball. But I thought it would be awesome if you could capture them in like a luxury ball or a sport ball for Cinderace or a safari ball for Rillaboom, etc., right? So I'm a little disappointed that they never did that. To me, it doesn't make sense why they didn't do that. I mean, it's kind of an easy, choice for a Max Raid event. And yet they had a bunch of other random Max Raid events that sometimes made sense. Like around summertime, they did one where it's like a bunch of water Pokemon or something like that. I don't know. I wish they would have handled the Max Raid events a little bit better too, because I remember in the very beginning stages of Sword and Shield, they did do these events pretty frequently, but it was always like, okay, for this week or something, you'll have a higher chance of encountering like Gigantamax Dreadnought. And then this week you'll have a higher chance of encountering Gigantamax Butterfree and stuff like that. And they did that for a while, and it makes sense. That was when the games were relatively new, but I still think that there was a lot of possibilities for other options, because then they started doing it kind of towards the end in this past year, which I can say I'm grateful that they kept doing these events, even up until this past year, but I just thought they could have gotten more creative, because then there were events where it was like, oh, you can catch you can catch pink Pokemon like Wigglytuff and Clefable, and there's a chance you can get a shiny Jigglypuff, or you can catch like water Pokemon, and there's a chance you can get a shiny Azumarill or something like that. Some of them were really cool events. Some of them just felt like they missed the mark, and I just wish they would have done more with it. I don't imagine it takes them that much effort to like program a little max raid event, and then, you know, have some cool rewards. And don't get me wrong, they had a lot of cool ones, especially around Christmas time. They would have like a Delibird event where I don't think you could catch the Delibird, but if you defeated it, you got some really good rewards. So that was really cool. Yeah, so my point here is that I think I'm pretty mixed on all of these max raid events that they had throughout Sword and Shield's lifespan, because I loved some of them and some of them were just plain bad, I guess, for lack of a better term. The most recent one actually before this was actually where you could encounter Spectrier and Glastrier, which are the two kind of new legendary Pokemon for the Crown Tundra, which came out like a year or two ago. But you could not capture them. You got some really good rewards for defeating them, but you could not capture them, which I guess it makes some sense why you couldn't capture them, you know, because they're rare and they're exclusive to the Crown Tundra. But I mean, this is literally the last weeks and days of Sword and Shield's lifespan. Why not just let people capture them, right? People are not going to be playing Sword and Shield in like a month. And not only that, but even when Pokemon Home compatibility comes to Scarlet and Violet, which probably won't be for a few months, to be honest, even when that happens, we're probably not going to be able to transfer Pokemon like Spectrier and Glastrier. So my point is, like, why not just let us capture them, have a whole box full of them, you know, let people have fun like that, and then we're probably not going to be able to touch these Spectriers and Glastriers until who knows when, right? So I don't know. I have a lot of criticism for ultimately how they handled these max raid events in Pokemon Sword and Shield. I kind of feel like more times than not I was disappointed with them, whereas some few times I was pleased with them and excited. But I don't know. I think there was just so many you know, options with ways they could have gone about all these different events. So anyways, I'm just kind of rambling at this point, but I am interested in hearing what you think of this event. This kind of, I would call it like a celebration of the Gigantamax raids, because you can catch a lot of different Gigantamax Pokemon in this event. But I'm interested in hearing what you think about this event, but also all of the max raid events that we had over the years in general. Did you love them? Did you hate them? Did it vary? Was it like me, where some of them were great, some of them were bad? Let me know in the comments. But again, this officially marks the end of Pokemon Sword and Shield, and I am hoping to do a review or retrospective of Pokemon Sword and Shield in the coming weeks, just to kind of celebrate it and prepare for Gen 9. But in general, I do think that Sword and Shield ended up being pretty good games. I really liked them. I'm really grateful for them. I had a lot of fun playing them, and I think that they were a great introduction into Gen 8 and into Pokemon on the Nintendo Switch. Of course, there were issues with them, there were flaws, but overall, I really enjoyed Gen 8 Pokemon Sword and Shield, and I am... You don't need me to say this, but I'm extremely excited for Pokemon Scarlet and Violet coming out very, very soon. So please let me know in the comments what you think about all of this. I am always interested in hearing everyone's opinions and just seeing where we differ and where we agree. And we are just about a couple of weeks away from Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. Let me know in the comments how hyped you are for Scarlet and Violet. Anyways, thank you very much for watching. I'll talk to you all soon.